Algebra 1, Section 2.2. Coming off of a lesson where we talk about addition in algebra. Now we're going to talk about subtraction. Hopefully you are finding these sections to be fairly easy. If you're not, that's a little bit of a sign that maybe the algebra geometry class isn't for you. That's why we're moving so fast, though, is because when we get to the weightier stuff in the book, we want to have more time to go through them. And not only that, but I will start supplementing geometry after the first test. So you need to do your due diligence and make sure that you get these foundational lessons, that you're not just pencil whipping your homework, but really that you're being thorough and not finding it difficult. Okay, same thing with the last section. I think you should just quickly take a look at example 1 and example 2. And I'm going to start here on example 3. Part A there, I think there's not a lot to that. We already talked about the fact that minus negative should be changed to plus. That's what they've done here. So you can see that that answer is correct, 2.4. Let's talk about fractions. Again, they have minus negative. So I usually just like draw over it so that I can just see that that's going to be a plus so that I don't make a silly mistake. And when you add fractions, you may know that you need to have common denominator, okay? So we're going to need to adjust this fraction so that it has a denominator of 9. Sometimes you have to adjust them both by going for the greatest common factor of the denominators. In this case, we only have to adjust the 1. It would be like multiplying this fraction by 3 over 3. 3 over 3 is 1, right? So when you multiply 2/3 by this form of 1, you're not changing its value, but what you are doing is changing its form so that it does then have a denominator of 9. By the way, when you multiply fractions, I hope you already know this, that you multiply across and multiply across, right? So 3 times 2 is 6, 3 times 3 is 9. 2/3 and 6/9 are the same fraction. We're adding that to 4/9, and when you add fractions, somebody may be making an announcement here in the building, but we'll just have to pause and wait. When you add fractions, you add the numerators and you keep the denominator, right? So our denominator is 9, 6 plus 4 is 10. And that's 10/9. Now, if that fraction would reduce, you should reduce it. This fraction does not, so that's a fine answer, 10/9. Do not go to decimal. Don't go to your calculator and divide 10 by 9. That would be an equivalent value, but that's not what we want. When you're given a fraction problem, you want to have a fraction solution. Somebody's probably wondering about what if we make that 1 1/9. That's a correct answer, and I certainly wouldn't mark you wrong for giving me a correct answer, but you're going to find that in Algebra 1 there are more uses for the top-heavy fraction, the improper fraction. So 10/9, in my opinion, is the best answer. Yeah, they did an either or there for their answer. Okay, we talked about absolute value back in chapter 1. We'll deal with that in a second. This is minus a negative again, somewhat of a theme here. And so that's negative 13 plus 21. Negative 13 plus 21 is positive 8. That's the absolute value of positive 8. Don't do anything with the absolute value before you do the work that's inside. I don't think I said it this way in my previous video when I talked about absolute value, but absolute value is a grouping symbol just like parentheses. Yes, it also has a function that parentheses don't, but it's grouping in and of itself, so we need to do the work that's inside there first, and then we can take the absolute value of that number. And of course, the absolute value of 8 is 8. Here's an evaluate again. And if I plug negative 3 in for x and negative 6 in for y, that would be negative 3 minus parenthesis negative 3 close parenthesis. I've never seen so many negatives in one simple problem. Well, 2 of the 3 negatives here are going to cancel, right? Negative, 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 or minus negative, negative is really just like saying minus. So this is just negative. Oops, I used the wrong number though. Pardon me. I mean 6, not 3. But what I just said about the negatives is true, of course. So 2 of these 3 will just cancel out, and you have negative 3 minus 6, or negative 9. And one more, the temperature in Montreal, Canada at 6 p.m. was negative 8 degrees Fahrenheit. Doesn't that make you want to move there? find the temperature at 10 p.m. if it fell 7 degrees. Okay, so you could probably answer that question just logically, but they just wanted you to see, the application part of subtraction. So we're taking -8 and subtracting 7, or adding -7 as they're showing there, and that's going to be -15. You would know that, right? If it's -8 and it falls 7 degrees, it's going to be farther into the negative, and that would be -15. And that is all. Thanks for tuning in.